bloody plastic bumper. Just like that, it's painting day. So very excited about this one. Everything's been prepped and it's all ready to go. Very cold morning this morning. I wanted to get an early start, but it's absolutely bloody freezing. So hopefully the sun will warm everything up nicely. So everything's been prepped. I spent a bit more time with the passenger side quarter panel butt cheek thing. Just getting it to fit a little bit nicer. I found that once I had everything bolted up, there was a bit of movement in it. As in if you stood on the back step, that quarter would move up and down. So I had to add some rigidity into that and to get it to sit a little bit nicer. Raptor will sell you their etch primer. I used one of theirs, which was like 40 bucks for a can. And then I ran out of that, so I used a super cheap auto can. It was like $10. Both do the same job, so probably just go with the cheaper one. I can't really see a benefit for going with something that's branded, but I don't know, maybe we'll find out in the end. So anyway, everything's been primed nice and evenly. The inside of the steel I primed like well enough, but it's got a few runs and stuff in it because I really wanted to get that primer into the corners. Not too fussed about the finish on the inside, though we are going to be applying the Raptor to the inside of the panel. But again, that will be just as is, so whatever happens there. The outside is more what I am concerned in. So usually when you get this, it gives you the option to either spray it on with the spray gun or to roll it on. They do provide you with a roller and a bunch of different rollers here, but the rollers they give you are like a really coarse foam, like really open cell kind of foam kind of texture, which gives you that really rough bed liner kind of look, but that's not what I'm going for. I'm going for a smoother finish. All the advice I could find on how to do that was to use a smooth roller. So this is a paint roller for painting your walls inside, but it should do the same job. So this has just got that kind of down kind of material on top of it that should make those the texture much finer and help to smooth it over nicer. I've also got a paintbrush to do the inside corners because obviously this being quite a big buffy thing, probably not going to work too well for inside. So we're just going to paintbrush the rest of the inside of it. So the way to mix it up, you've got your bottles of the actual Raptor coating. This is the actual like polyurethane, urethane paint actually in here. This kit comes with 4 of these bottles. Probably only going to use maybe 1 or 2 of them, but we'll see how we go. I've got heaps there. The other thing you'll need is your hardener. So these get mixed up as a 2-part paint, so a 2-pack paint. This won't harden until you add the hardener in, so that will get mixed up in there. For that, they provide you with this nice little cup, so that tells you 237 mils of hardener will go straight into that. Shake it up, away you go. Because we're tinting it, we're also going to use some tinted paint, which is the same factory coat as the Prado. I thought I had some. Turned out the paint coat was like 1 coat off. So a lot of the like touch-ups and stuff I'd done on the car with that paint, the paint is a little bit off, but it's not such a big deal because it's just tiny scratches. If I'm going to be doing the whole thing, I do want it the same. So I went off and got some paint mixed. So I've got 250 mils of that, which is more than enough. So for every one of these, you need 50 mils of tintable paint, 237 mils of hardener, and then 711 mils of the Raptor coating. Mix all that up together. We're going to put it into a container like this one, and then we're just going to paint it on and away we go. Raptor say that you have got 60 minutes to use up that liquid. If you don't use it all, then it's pretty much discard it because it's not going to harden as you want it to. So fingers crossed we can get it all done within then. I'm going to do 2 coats on the inside and probably 2, maybe 3 coats on the outside, depending on how much paint I have left. I'm going to be doing the inside first just to kind of get a handle on things because obviously like you're not going to see the inside of the panel, so it doesn't matter too much. And then when we're ready, we'll do the outside. Now to mix up the 50 mils of paint, if you had some nice measuring cups and stuff, that'd be great. But being that this is Prado 120 Adventures and I have nothing, I've got an old jar of honey, and I've literally poured 50 mils of water into this jar, marked there, and then emptied it out and dried it. So I now know that I can use this, pour 50 mils of paint into there, and then boom, straight into there. Away we go. So that's all good. I'm going to be wearing a mask while I'm doing it. They say to wear a respirator while you're spraying it. However, when you're rolling it, they just say eye protection, hand protection, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to wear that just in case, because I reckon the fumes from the hardener is probably going to be pretty wafty. I'm going to be painting outside in the sun because it's bloody cold in the shed, and we want as much heat and airflow over it as possible, both for my benefit and for the paint. So everything's all ready to go. So we're going to start mixing up some paint and get right into it. So all up, I'm pretty happy with how that went on. Paint's really easy. It's like really thick adhesive kind of paint. The rear section is pretty rough, but again, it's not really going to be seen, so not too fussed about that. I thought it would have a bit more of a textured finish, but maybe it does when you use the roller. But anyway, we'll let it dry. That only took me half an hour to do the inside, so the outside should be even less because I'll don't have to kind of dab into the corners. I'll let this dry for another half an hour, and then we're going to do a second coat on the inside, and after that we'll flip it over and then do the outside coating. But that didn't come up too bad. That's mint. So the roller's given that really nice kind of fine textured finish, which I was after. I didn't want the really rough one. That's quite fine the way it is. And the good thing is it's gone on quite thin, so it means it'll dry nice and quick, which means I can put lots of thin coats on it, which will stop cracking and stuff from thermal expansion. Some of the parts, like under here, I'm gonna have to hit with a brush. After I've done probably most of this side, I'll flip it on its side and then do the top parts that I can't get to. But being able to do really thin, even coats like this is perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and knock out the other two sections and then show you what it looks like. So it's now been a few hours now. I keep putting thin coats on whenever the first one dries. And the texture on this is just pristine. It's amazing. I keep adding more paint to try and bring out the white so I can match it better with the car, but it's just really, really nice. I thought the thicker it can be, probably the stronger it'll be as well. Look at that. There are a few areas where it's been really difficult to paint. I don't know how well that comes up, but like in the corners, obviously because it's going on with a roller, it's quite hard to kind of get in the corners there, but it's so small and you know, such a small percentage of the actual build that it's probably not going to matter too much. The other one is like around the spindle. It's bad light. But yeah, I've had to apply it with the brush and then get the roller as close as I can to try and get the finish, but it's not really coming up, so I think I'll just leave it as is. But for now, I'm just fixing up a few little things. Where I had it resting, it ended up like grabbing a whole section of the paint and pulling it off, so I'm just redoing it now. Same with like over on these corners, just needing to touch up a few bits. Okie dokie, all finished. Everything's painted. Texture came out really, really nice. Pretty happy with that. It's all dried up now. It's been nearly 4 days since I painted it. The only thing I've done different is I've added a little bit of pinch weld on the top, just to see if I can neaten up a little bit. If it doesn't fit, like if the clearances aren't enough, then I'll take it off. Not really that fussed, but thought I'd try it. see how it looks, as I had some left over. So now we're going to start trying to fit it up, so come with us. And here it is, all fitted up. Looking very schmick. Pretty happy with how all that sits. I mean, for a first time amateur job, having a few little indiscrepancies isn't really going to change my mind about it. It all kind of went together quite easy. Got my trailer plug socket on there as well. Had to change my plan about that. I was originally going to pop rivet it in, but then my rivet gun wasn't working and my rivets weren't long enough, so I decided to thread some holes and bolt it in place instead. At least then I can take it out if I need to. I'll be painting over all the bolts and stuff so it all looks nice and factory white, but for now it's all on there. So our next job for this project is going to be building the kind of top deck to go onto this, because obviously that big cavity is not ideal for camping. So I've got some Jarrow decking. It's going to be something a little bit different, a little bit game changing. Just not a coil converted 79. So that should look nice on top of there. I originally had plans to kind of build a bit of a compartment that sits in this gap. So you'd lift part of the decking up and then be able to access it to store stuff like rubbish or dirty snatch straps or whatever. But I will tackle that at a later date. For now, we're going to look at putting the decking on. So, I mean, this is pretty simple stuff. Just going to be cutting literally that length of timber in half, drilling some holes, threading some spots in these bits of angle that I provided on the rear bar, and then attaching it all up. So I'll show you guys once it's all finished.
6.5 hours later.
G'day guys, welcome back to Prado 120 Adventures. Good to be back in the shed again, finally making a start on the rear swing away tyre carrier arm thingy bobby. I've been putting it off for a little while now because I've had some other stuff to do, but I've finally got a little bit of time now. I can make a start on it. So in terms of design, it's going to be coming off of the rear stub axle that we welded into the driver's side corner of the rear bar. Unfortunately, there is a very slight lean towards like the rear of the car, like backwards. Which is actually going to help us in this case, because it means that when the thing swings open, it will actually lean slightly down, so it will kind of help it to stay open, which will be nice. But we may end up kind of designing to correct that with the swing arm. Not going to bother about the stub axle because it's welded, not attaching it, so leave it as it is, and we'll just design with that in mind. The other thing this thing is going to do, it's going to support the rear tyre, so that's going to be coming off the rear door. It's going to be trying to mount it in like the factory position, location. So if you're looking at the car, it still covers up the indent in the rear door of where the spare would usually sit. But obviously it's going to be spaced a little bit further off the door as well. So what are we going to be using to build it? So I've got myself some square 50 by 50 by 3mm steel tube. Other people have used kind of 50 by 70 steel tube, but again, depends on what you got. I had this laying around, so I'm going to use it because it's plenty strong enough and I've got heaps of it, so may as well use it. We're also going to be using the flange where the tyre actually bolts onto. I'm going to use the one off the spare door, and let's just cut the circle out of where that sits on there. That way I've already got the studs there, I've already got the locations are perfect, and then I can just cut that off and reuse it on this, because that rear tyre carrier on the back door is not going to be used anymore. So we'll get rid of that and then just use it on this. The other thing we're going to be doing is using this latch. So this is one I picked up just from Bunnings down the road. It's got a separate little kind of thing down here. I don't know if that comes up, but you have to kind of pull that to the side to be able to lift it up. Otherwise it stays locked in position, which I thought for a spare wheel carrier is probably a good idea, because you don't want this thing swinging open on corrugated roads and stuff. It's also got a little spot here for a padlock if you want to use it if you're going to be leaving the car for a while. And also this like latch bit can be altered by threading it in and out. It goes through this little nut in the center, and then I can either lengthen it or shorten it as required. I'm not 100% sure exactly how I'm going to run this, but I'm just going to trust myself that I'll figure it out. I don't mind how it latches. It's obviously going to latch either to the vertical face of the bar, or it may even go to the top face as well, but not too sure on how I'm going to do that. So I'll just make the swing arm and then figure out the latch later on. But that's essentially what I want to be using. I may end up going with something different, but we'll see. The other thing I want to do, but I haven't really made any plans for, is some mechanism to hold the thing open. So if you're parked, say with the nose of the car facing down the hill, and you open the swing arm, you obviously want it to stay open and not kind of swing down and go whack in the back of the head. So I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that. I'm thinking maybe a gas strut. That would probably be the neatest way to do it. Otherwise, I'll end up making like a little pin locking system. So it'll have a little plate as it comes around, and then you drop a pin down and it locks it in that open position. But we'll see how we go. I have heard of a lot of people where that pin locks up from dust and water and mud and stuff like that, and it doesn't work anymore. But again, I'll just trust in myself to figure it out later on. Welcome back to another cold morning in the shed. I did finish up, finally welded this vertical section on. It's a little bit off, like nothing here is really 90 degrees, and that's for a reason. Because the spindle's on a bit of an angle, this ended up being on a bit of an angle, and therefore this is on a bit of an angle. Just everything's on a bit of an angle, but there's a reason for it. And the good thing is none of this is really going to be seen once you actually get the tire on there, because it's going to cover up all of this. So hopefully you don't even see it. Now I got this cross brace to go on, so that's going to sit on there like that and help to support the weight of the tyre being up there. Once I weld all this on, we're then going to be looking at getting the whole kind of wheel stud face thingy, hub thingy bob on there, and making sure that's on there nice and firm as well. We'll be cutting that out of the old one because at the moment there's no real need to go reinventing the wheel when I've already got a good one, perfectly good one sitting there, and I'm not going to use it again once this is all done, so it's going to be going on. Once that's all done, we're going to be looking at getting the latching system correct. So at the moment I'm probably going to have a bit of a drop down thing. It's going to come down from the bottom there and attach to the bar somehow, but I decided once I get all this on, then I can work out the latching, because the latching is really, I can make it whatever I want. So I'll just do that bit last. And then we're also going to look at some way of stopping it. So I'm probably going to end up with a bit of a right angle bit of steel bolted to the bar, and it's going to sit vertical so that this can't actually swing in and touch the door. But again, like I said, once it's all on there, then I can start working that kind of stuff out. Also going to have to then look at something to hold it in an open position. Again, it may end up just being a stopper. It may be like a pin you drop down to kind of lock it in position, but haven't figured that out yet. So I'm just going to keep going with this and trust that in the future I'll figure those problems out. So let's get to doing some welding. Now it's important to remember we all make mistakes. None of us are perfect, and I've just proved that I am definitely not. I kind of forgot that I need to space this further out, because at the moment the normal GXL Prado rims are like plus 30 or something offset. So the tire is basically hindering on everything around it. So this needs to come further up towards you guys in order for the tire to then sit on it. So I need to then bring this outwards, which I really should have known, but I didn't think it through. So now I have to cut all my welds off and start again. Dun, 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 dun. Look at that. Freaking, that's amazing. I'm so happy with that. See that bit of an angle? Gives me a bit of that Baja look with my spare tyre. That's that kind of spacing I needed to pull it out as well. I have test fitted on the car. It looks freaking sick, but I'm going to wait to show you guys until it's all finished, because I want to get a latch on there so I can actually keep it on the road. So what I'm going to do now is simply put a little cross brace in here. So between here and here somewhere. Just a bit of steel there to help support the tyre. And then we'll look at putting the latch on. So don't think I'll film the support bit because you've already seen me cutting and welding, so we'll just skip straight to the latch. And there she is. Look at that. Looks amazing. Looks really good in the factory white. Finished greasing the bearings and put all that cap on for the final time. And you can see the latch down here. It's actually quite easy to use. It's just got this little part down here you have to lift up first. Then the whole thing just comes undone like that. Then it swings out. Away you go. Now, because of that spindle being on an angle, when it does spin out, the whole thing sits on it a little bit crooked, which is fine. It's good because it actually falls to the open position about 90 degrees away from the car, so as a default position, that's quite good. Thanks for guys for sticking around. I know this was a long episode, but I really wanted to get through everything and show you everything that went into making this rear bar. Now there's a few little specs and stuff I know you guys would be interested to hear, so I thought I'd write them all down and tell you at the end. So in terms of cost, materials wise, this cost me about $200, and half of that was in the actual rear lights and the spindle. So you can save yourself a bit of dollars if you can shop around and get those. Bloody planes flying over. So yeah, about $200 in total it all cost me, and again half of that was kind of in the actual steel, so definitely a good way if you're looking to save yourself some money. In terms of time, all up it took me about 7 weeks to build this, and that's kind of had uni going on at the same time, had work going, had other personal stuff, so it was just kind of whenever I had a free day or a free half day, I'd just spend a bit of time doing a bit of welding and cutting, and pretty happy with it all. The paint itself for the whole kit was about $200, so you can factor that into your equations. Weight, I'd probably estimate this around about 40 kilos. The steel by itself, just the sheet metal, was about 30 kilos, plus everything else probably about 40, then whatever the weight of the spare tyre is. I do also have a very important announcement. We're going to be having a bit of a change coming to the channel, which I'll reveal in the next video to come up. It's going to be a bit of a way to connect with you guys a little bit more, hopefully so that I can give back to you guys and the people who are really loyal and really dedicated to the channel, and also a way that you guys can get a little bit more out of me and the content I create. So that will be coming up in a future video to announce all of that. So thanks again guys, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to comment down below, like it, subscribe, share, all that other stuff that all the YouTubers ask you to do. I do read all the comments, so if you have something to ask me, then put it down below and I'll make sure to get back to you. So cheers guys, I'll catch you next time.